PSE index went down from 6,970.51 last September 10, 2021, to 6,912.85 this September 17, 2021. This performance is equivalent to a minus 0.83% decrease in the index for the week. Our magical stocks, however, went up from 690.16k pesos to 696.72k pesos, or a 0.95% increase in our investment. Overall, our magical stocks profit went up from 89.34k pesos to 95.9k pesos. We will update the 4 batches of magical stocks together with the 7 experimental magical stocks for this week's video. We also did a quick screening for our September experiment. Before we proceed with our update, and if you are interested in investing using our magical stocks or monitoring our system's effectiveness, please like this channel, subscribe and hit the notification button to keep you updated weekly. Let's first discuss the September screening. Here is the worksheet for the experiment. We chose LTG, FGen, MEG, MPI, and GTCAP for this month. We will monitor this for 1 year and check if this will be profitable or not. As usual, our budget is 30,000 pesos per stock. Let's now discuss the November experimental magical stocks performance from September 10, 2021, to September 17, 2021. Here is our worksheet for our November experimental stocks. Our top performer is DMC gaining 27.57%, while the least performer is LTG losing minus 33.48%. We have 2 sell signal in our 5 experimental stocks. Let's look at the trend which we started to monitor last November 20, 2020. The PSE index went down from minus 2.78% to minus 3.58%, losing minus 0.8%. The experimental magical stocks also went down from minus 8.18% to minus 8.47%, losing minus 0.29%. The experiment is below the benchmark line, while the index is also below the benchmark line. Our experiment is below the index with a gap of minus 4.88% this September 17, 2021, coming from minus 5.4% last September 10, 2021. Let's now discuss the December experimental magical stocks performance from September 10, 2021, to September 17, 2021. Here is our worksheet for our December experimental stocks. Our top performer is DMC gaining 16.83%, while the least performer is LTG losing minus 34.24%. We have 1 sell signal in our 5 experimental stocks. Let's look at the experiment's trend, which we compare against the PSE index starting December 18, 2020. The PSE index went down from minus 4.16% to minus 4.95%, losing minus 0.79%. The experimental magical stocks, however, went up from minus 1.7% to minus 0.19%, gaining 1.51%. The experiment is below the benchmark line, while the index is also below the benchmark line. Our experiment is above the index with a gap of 4.76% this September 17, 2021, coming from 2.46% last September 10, 2021. Let's now discuss the February experimental magical stocks performance from September 10, 2021, to September 17, 2021. Here is our worksheet for our February experimental stocks. Our top performer is SCC gaining 51.42%, while the least performer is FDC losing minus 15.08%. We have 1 sell signal in our 5 experimental stocks. Let's look at the experiment's trend, which we compare against the PSE index starting February 19, 2021. The PSE index went down from 0.64% to minus 0.2%, losing minus 0.83%. The experimental magical stocks, however, went up from 2.98% to 3.55%, gaining 0.58%. The experiment is above the benchmark line, while the index is below the benchmark line. Our experiment is above the index with a gap of 3.75% this September 17, 2021, coming from 2.34% last September 10, 2021. Let's now discuss the March experimental magical stocks performance from September 10, 2021, to September 17, 2021. Here is our worksheet for our March experimental stocks. Our top performer is DMC gaining 41.6%, while the least performer is MPI losing -0.52%. We have one sell signal in our 5 experimental stocks. Let's look at the experiment's trend, which we compare against the PSE index starting March 19, 2021. The PSE index went down from 8.3% to 7.41%, losing -0.9%. The experimental magical stocks also went down from 15.17% to 15%, losing -0.17%. The experiment is above the benchmark line, while the index is also above the benchmark line. Our experiment is above the index with a gap of 7.59% this September 17, 2021, coming from 6.87% last September 10, 2021. Let's now discuss the May experimental magical stocks performance from September 10, 2021, to September 17, 2021. Here is our worksheet for our May experimental stocks. Our top performer is AEV gaining 43.88%, while the least performer is RLC but gaining 1.14%. We have one sell signal in our 5 experimental stocks. Let's look at the experiment's trend, which we compare against the PSE index starting May 21, 2021. The PSE index went down from 12.44% to 11.51%, losing -0.93%. The experimental magical stocks, however, went up from 12.37% to 13.21%, gaining 0.85%. The experiment is above the benchmark line, while the index is also above the benchmark line. Our experiment is above the index with a gap of 1.7% this September 17, 2021, coming from -0.07% last September 10, 2021. Let's now discuss the June experimental magical stocks performance from September 10, 2021, to September 17, 2021. Here is our worksheet for our June experimental stocks. Our top performer is AP gaining 36.33%, while the least performer is MEG losing -6.11%. We have one sell signal in our 5 experimental stocks. Let's look at the experiment's trend, which we compare against the PSE index starting June 18, 2021. The PSE index went down from 1.74% to 0.9%, losing -0.84%. The experimental magical stocks, however, went up from 7.85% to 12.37%, gaining 4.52%. The experiment is above the benchmark line, while the index is also above the benchmark line. Our experiment is above the index with a gap of 11.47% this September 17, 2021, coming from 6.11% last September 10, 2021. Let's now discuss the August experimental magical stocks performance from September 10, 2021, to September 17, 2021. Here is our worksheet for our August experimental stocks. Our top performer is MER gaining 3.5%, while the least performer is RLC losing -5.68%. We still don't have any sell signal for each of the 5 experimental stocks. Let's look at the experiment's trend, which we compare against the PSE index starting August 20, 2021. The PSE index went down from 5.08% to 4.22%, losing -0.87%. The experimental magical stocks also went down from 0.88% to -0.87%, losing -1.75%. The experiment is below the benchmark line, while the index is above the benchmark line. Our experiment is below the index with a gap of -5.08% this September 17, 2021, coming from -4.21% last September 10, 2021. Here is the worksheet for our 4 batches of magical stocks. Our top performer is AP gaining 12.2%, while the least performer is GT Cap losing -6.69%. We still don't have any sell signal for our magical stocks. Our first batch is above the market with a gap of 10.36% this September 17, 2021, coming from 12.93% last September 10, 2021. Our second batch is above the market with a gap of 20.12% this September 17, 2021, coming from 13.2% last September 10, 2021. Our third batch is above the market with a gap of 5.79% this September 17, 2021, coming from 6.44% last September 10, 2021. Our fourth batch is above the market with a gap of 2.93% this September 17, 2021, coming from 0.28% last September 10, 2021. To summarize our investment, the first batch of Magical Stocks is gaining by 26.77%, coming from 30.32%. The second batch is gaining by 16.09%, coming from 9.96%. The third batch is gaining by 13.54%, coming from 15.09%. The fourth batch is gaining by 2.91%, coming from 1.1%. Overall, with an investment of 600.82k pesos, our investment's current value is 696.72k pesos, equivalent to 15.96% coming from 14.87%. We have a gaining first batch, a gaining second batch, a gaining third batch and a gaining fourth batch. That will be all for the Magical Stocks update this week. Thank you for watching. Next week, we will continue updating the 4 batches of Magical Stocks and the 7 experimental stocks. Quote, how many millionaires do you know who have become wealthy by investing in savings accounts? I rest my case. Unquote. Robert G. Allen. See you in the following video, have a great day ahead.